Probably got me over.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Shadow, and we have another gameplay for you this week on Stash, the small map that they added in Season 2, and I'm using an incredible Tak of Volvaire class. After they added the Tak of Volvaire, they nerfed it instantaneously. They gave this gun two different ammo types, one for 5.56 rounds and another one for 7.62. And initially at launch, when they released this gun, it didn't really go as well as they wanted it to. They actually had to go back and add some stats to this gun. The 5.56 rounds shoot a lot faster now, and the 7.62 rounds shoot a little bit slower but are quite hard hitting. In the gameplay here, I'm using the 5.56 rounds with the 100 round drum, and it is just fantastic. The recoil, you can see, it's just a laser beam, and the movement for an LMG is just incredible. You can really slide around. When you're aiming down sights, you don't feel slow. It's a very good weapon. I highly recommend the Tak of Volvaire. And here we are at the Season 2 Reloaded update, which was yesterday morning. And overall, a solid update, I would say. It was, mid-season update, so they didn't add too much content to the game. They added Das Haus, the map from Call of Duty Vanguard, which Sledgehammer Games also made. And they remastered it a little bit this time. It's a lot more bright. It's not just like a night map like it was in Vanguard, where it's kind of hard to see. It's a daytime map on a construction site, and I'm feeling the remake. It's very good. It definitely gives me a little bit of nostalgic vibes from a few years ago, and it's fast paced, just like this game likes to have. The tight small maps, everybody running around like they're a chicken with their head cut off. And they remastered a couple of the other maps that were already in the game, like Skid Row. They kind of made it an overgrown limited time variant. Airborne, which is just a limited time variant of Terminal. Not too much content for the mid-season update, but it was needed. We still need new maps for this game. The Modern Warfare 2009 maps that this game launched with were fine for launch, plenty of maps, but it's being played out now. We want some more new original maps, and they're giving that to us with this mid-season update. Another thing they added was the new weapon, the SOA Subverter, which is a battle rifle. And it was said before it was released that it was going to have like a slow fire rate and dominate mid to long range. And it definitely has a slower fire rate than some of the, faster firing guns in the game, like say the MCW or the MTZ 5.56. But it shoots pretty quick. I was kind of impressed with how fast it's shooting, and based on my knowledge right now, it's appearing to be meta in Warzone, which isn't entirely shocking. When they add a new weapon into the game, they almost always make it overpowered, at least very usable in both Warzone and multiplayer, so not shocked that it's a usable weapon. The other weapon they added is a melee weapon. It's a Soul Render Sword, which it has an interesting trait to it. You can kind of like charge it up and kind of give it like one big powerful swing that I think is a one-hit kill. But if you use it normally like a regular melee weapon, I think it's gonna require multiple hits, maybe like two, and you're gonna swing it obviously a little bit quicker in that mode. But yeah, you can like charge it up, which is something you can't really do with any other melee weapon, which is very interesting. In addition to the new weapons and the new map, it wouldn't be a Call of Duty update if they didn't make tweaks to the weapon, or they didn't make weapon balancing a priority. And they did touch a few weapons here, actually quite a few weapons. The BP-50 got a pretty solid nerf. That was definitely one of the more OP weapons, both in Warzone and in multiplayer. It was really coming on in Warzone recently. They touched the BAS-B, the battle rifle, which is kind of interesting. I didn't really think that gun was necessarily a problem, and I don't really feel like they've touched it much since launch. Definitely a strong weapon, but they kind of nerfed it here, which is interesting. They definitely tweaked a few other weapons, making some attachments that weren't really useful more useful now, and other attachments that were maybe used too much less useful. Overall, they haven't really made a major change to any weapon that I feel really shakes the meta overall on multiplayer or Warzone at this point. The biggest thing that they've added was honestly the new weapon. Anytime they add the new weapon, it's going to be very good at first. So the Subverter, the battle rifle, and the Soul Render melee weapon are going to be usable for the rest of the season for sure. They're going to be meta. Everything else that they've touched, I don't really feel is going to make a big difference in how the game is being played. With Warzone and multiplayer aside, there was actually some interesting zombie updates that were added here. And despite the tweet that I read that said that they weren't really planning on adding any zombies content, potentially moving forward for the rest of the game's life cycle, I was actually kind of surprised by what we did get. The mid-season update added a new story mission, which is quite interesting, and another Dark Aether Rift, which is based on the Al Mazrah Mall, I believe. And they added a few other schematics and new acquisitions, such as the Mags of Holding, which basically means you can just keep shooting directly from your ammo stash without having to reload. And then they finally added a Bloodburner key, which is, you're going to see a lot more Bloodburners probably running around the map, which does bring up an interesting question that I have. If you have a Bloodburner key, are you able to steal another player's Bloodburner during the game? If so, that would be very annoying, and I wouldn't want to run a Bloodburner key if someone's just going to run up and steal my Bloodburner. They added the VR11 Wonder Weapon case schematic, which is also very nice. I think that is the best way to kill the Red Worm at this point in time. And they also introduced the containment levels, which is kind of like the Exfil streak from DMZ. A new tiered exfil streak system, which is immediately available to all players. You complete contracts, successfully exfil from the easy, and it increases your containment level. And you get various rewards for your increased containment level. Tier 1, you get an additional 500 essence. Level 5 for Tier 2, you start with 5 armor plates. Tier 3, at level 8, you get 1,000 essence at launch. And Tier 4, at level 12, 30% discount on Perca-Cola. Machine cost, Tier 5, level 20, start with 1,500 essence. And as you can see, it's just kind of incentivizing you for having successful exfils, which is kind of the antithesis of what the game has been up to this point with the tombstone glitch, where people were intentionally killing themselves just so they were getting additional perks and getting their money built up and stuff. So they're definitely trying to counteract that a little bit, but kind of giving you more incentive to exfil successfully, which I think is nice, but the mode is still lacking a lot even at this point. I mean, getting new weapons is always cool. We got the 2 new weapons. There's some new aftermarket parts too that were added in. One for the Holger 556, another one for the Baz-B. But honestly, the game mode needs more content, like more content that's actually going to really shake things up and change things. You know, adding a new Aether Rift and, you know, adding a few new weapons is not gonna do it for us for the zombie mode. If they want people to really play the zombies mode, they really need to add perks. They need to add better areas that aren't just rehashed areas from Al Mazrah. Maybe give us, maybe a multiplayer map or something. Just anything that's different, that shakes things up and gives it a little bit more seasoning. Right now it's just unflavored and it stinks. I want to finish off the Call of Duty talk by addressing the cheating. It's gotten completely out of hand. You can't play a multiplayer match for an hour. You can't play a single Warzone match. And even in ranked at times, I definitely feel like there's some fishy things going on. It's infected every aspect of the game, and it just needs to be fixed and addressed. There's no reason that a player can have all of these hacks loaded up for Call of Duty, but they go to open up another game and they're instantaneously banned. Call of Duty needs to do better with the anti-cheat. This is just embarrassing. But other things that I wanted to mention, as Season 2 in Call of Duty was announced, they added a Walking Dead collaboration, and the new Walking Dead show, The Ones Who Lived, is surprisingly good. If you see anything on the internet, you see that there's a lot of buzz surrounding that show, and it's been fantastic. I watched the first episode, and I didn't really want to watch the first episode. It was on free for YouTube, which is the only reason why I caught it, and I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know if I'm going to continue watching. The first episode was enough for me, I think. It was almost like a movie. I could be persuaded to continue to watch, but I'm just impressed by how the show, the original The Walking Dead, went from being just universally panned and people leaving the show in droves to releasing a new version of the show in one episode and it being just so good. Like, where was all of this good content, you know, the last ending years of The Walking Dead, when the show was just boring and terrible and making awful decisions? I'm impressed with what they've done so far with this. If you haven't checked it out, The Ones Who Lived it's definitely worth checking out the first episode at least. But that is everything for this week of Call of Duty. I will be back next week for another gameplay. If you liked and enjoyed the game, please like, comment, and subscribe. I stream on Twitch Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Sometimes on Wednesday I'll add a little additional stream on there, but I'm always usually trying to get the new content and gameplay for you guys. The next week we'll show some Subverter gameplay for sure on the channel, but otherwise, I am out. Peace.